track and on target. New tonight on Our News Live at 7, the health minister says a new hospital is on the way for Grand Bahama. That and other revelations coming out of today's mid-year budget debate. Plus, we'll tell you who missed the public disclosure deadline on March 1st. And later, what does the launch of a short-term rental portal mean for the vacation home rental business? And then in Our News at 7:30, the Prime Minister issuing a challenge to a former Prime Minister. The war of words continues. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. The government's full steam ahead with the construction of a new hospital facility in Grand Bahama. The health minister says his ministry is also working on manpower shortages. Berthany McDermott gets us started tonight.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville gave the update during his contribution to the mid-year budget debate. He says the new facility first promised by the former Christie administration is on target. The facility is expected to cost $201 million.
The hospital for Grand Bahama that you indicated will never be built will be built, and groundbreaking will happen in short order. Our architects, our health planners, engineers have completed the first phase of the design-build hospital, and requests for proposals will be going out this month.
As for New Providence, the Health and Wellness Minister revealed the budget cycle for the first phase of the Specialty Hospital and Trauma Center in New Providence was completed last year. He says government is in talks with an international bank to source funding for the facility.
These loan facilities will certainly make way for the modernization of healthcare infrastructure and help to transform the delivery of quality tertiary healthcare services.
Darville also addressing manpower challenges within the Ministry of Health and Wellness, revealing a new crop of 450 healthcare and support staff are now trained and being deployed. He says more is to come.
I am proud to report that the additional approval of staff, that their training is almost completed and should be manifested completely in the budget cycle at the end of this cycle.
The healthcare system has long faced manpower challenges as local healthcare professionals are often recruited by countries like the United States. Darville says the government is looking to recruit nurses from countries like Ghana, West Africa, Cuba, and the Philippines. Despite the drain, he says the Public Hospitals Authority has started training and hiring healthcare employees. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Well, the Public Disclosure Act makes provisions for the public disclosure of the assets, income, and liabilities of individuals in public life. Particularly, every senator and member of parliament shall provide to the commission a declaration of assets, income, and liabilities. The deadline for submissions was March 1st. Our news team put the question to the Prime Minister on whether he met yesterday's deadline.
I should be filing today. If it didn't go in yesterday, it would be in today.
All right, a junior-ranking police officer is behind bars after being charged with molesting his daughter. The 33-year-old corporal, who's been suspended from duty, faced 10 counts of incest when he appeared before Senior Magistrate Carolyn Vogt Evans on Thursday. He hasn't been named to protect the identity of his daughter. Prosecutors allege the officer began molesting his 10-year-old daughter in November 2020. The abuse allegedly continued until February 24th this year. His daughter is now 12 years old. The man wasn't required to enter a plea to the charge. He returns to court on June 12th. And police are also investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of a Canadian visitor at Cape Santa Maria in Long Island. Police say shortly after 10:30 Wednesday morning, the 59-year-old visitor was spearfishing with other family members when he began having issues in the water. He was helped to the shoreline and was administered CPR before being transported to a local clinic, where he was later pronounced dead. The man's body will be flown to New Providence for an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death. And police need your help finding a man they say is responsible for sexually assaulting a woman at her Englerston home. Police say around 2 a.m. Wednesday, the victim was awoken by the suspect holding a knife to her throat. After being sexually assaulted by the suspect, the victim alerted her neighbors, who then called the police. Anyone with information on the case is asked to call 911, 919, or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. We've got a whole lot more to get to, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures, and meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Candino, and a happy Thursday evening, everybody. Slightly warm but comfortable conditions on the outside of our studios right now. Temperatures are in the mid-70s, 76 degrees under clear skies. Your winds out of the south-southeast at 10 miles per hour, and your field side temperature comfortable 75 degrees. Temperatures around the islands tonight, it's 72 in Freeport, 77 over in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. We pick up 79 in Allenstown, Bimini, 78 in Great Harbor Key, 79 also in Nicholstown, Andros. Over in Governor's Harbor, 77. South Central Bahamas, 78. Most locations, exception being Arthurstown, you are at 76, Cookman Townsend, Salvador, 75, Deadman's Key, 78. And into the southeast Bahamas, 79 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, at Delectable Bay, Abraham's Bay, all 78, 77 in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and deep south, Matthewtown, Inagua, you are 79 at this hour. Satellite view, we had some low-level moisture coming across, some patchy clouds moving into the area, but nothing much in terms of any significant rainfall. But most of those clouds have dissipated. We're continuing to see some clearing skies. High-level clouds moving out of the Gulf of Mexico across Florida and portions of the Northwest Bahamas, not really going to be producing any rainfall for us, but we expect these conditions to last through tomorrow. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us to look at your extended forecast. It's still to come.
Thanks a lot, Greg. And still to come on our news, a short-term rental portal launches. We'll tell you how to sign up and what it could mean for vacation rental owners. But first, police on Grand Bahama set on preventing crime on that island. And later, putting our oceans first as world leaders meet in Panama. We'll tell you more when our news returns.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lacaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Police in the northern Bahamas conducting an island-wide walkabout. It's all part of the Commissioner of Police's 2023 policing plan. Officers conducting road checks and providing motorists with safety tips from the western end of the island to the east. Heads of the various police divisions providing the media with their policing strategies for the year as well as areas of concern. Officer in charge of the Central Division, Superintendent of Advardo Dames, speaking on Operation Downtown Turnaround, which was launched in January in the downtown shopping district.
Which have resulted in the arrest of a number of vagrants and other persons who have been placed before the magistrate courts, as well as a number of traffic violators have been ticketed for various infractions. This operation will continue.
Officer in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department, Detective Superintendent Darrell Ware, says most serious crimes are as a result of young people not being able to resolve conflicts.
And we are appealing to persons who come into this situation. If you feel you cannot resolve these issues in a peaceful way, reach out to us. Let us be that person to try to resolve these issues, because we cannot afford to lose no lives. And that's one of the major problems we have.
All right, well, starting today, all property owners operating their residences as short-term vacation rentals will be required to register their properties by the end of April in a newly launched portal. The goal, to ensure that all owners in the market are maintaining a high standard of service and meeting all tax obligations. Acting Controller of Department of Inland Revenue, Shunda Strawn, explains.
The government and the department, or I should say the Department of Inland Revenue, the government, is mindful that there is no entity that is monitoring this new industry. And it's important for us now to begin to have an understanding of who is entering the industry, the properties that are being rented. And so the reason for the portal really is for the government to gain information on this new industry.
All right. So what exactly or what exactly would qualify as a short-term rental, the acting controller says.
They are renting their properties. It could be a room in their house. It could be an apartment, but they are now opting to rent to visitors on a short-term basis, meaning for less than 45 days. And they're renting these properties mainly for vacation purposes to persons coming and visiting the Bahamas.
Right now, to register, you can go to inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs, click vacation rental, and you can follow the prompts from there. When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as an explosive was found in a checked bag at a U.S. airport. Plus, why the time to take action on oceans is now. And later, Out of This World Speeds Alive receives an international award. We'll tell you why when our news continues. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken telling his Russian counterpart the U.S. will support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Blinken's brief meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov happening on the sidelines of the G20 summit in India. It is the first time the two have spoken face-to-face since the start of the Ukraine war 1 year ago. A State Department official telling reporters that Blinken had disabused Lavrov of any idea that U.S. support for Ukraine is wavering. The official did not say how Lavrov responded, but said there was no indication that Russia will change course anytime soon. Rail workers across Greece have begun a one-day strike after a train crash on Tuesday killed at least 43 people. The walkout follows protests in 3 Greek cities near the site of the disaster. Rescue workers are still going through burned and buckled carriages searching for victims. Greece's newly appointed transport minister said he was taking over on Thursday with a mandate to investigate the worst train disaster in the country's history and to modernize the ailing railway system. A Pennsylvania man faces federal criminal charges after authorities say he checked in a suitcase with an explosive device hidden in the lining on a flight to Florida on Wednesday. According to a criminal complaint, 40-year-old Mark Muffley is charged with possessing an explosive in an airport and possessing or attempting to place an explosive or incendiary device on an aircraft. Muffley, who remains in custody, was caught after an alert during security screening. Authorities said they concluded the device posed a significant risk to the aircraft and passengers. A Barbados High Court judge ruling this week that the prohibition of public officers engaging in active politics is unconstitutional and inconsistent with the rights to freedom of expression and association outlined in the Constitution. Justice Westman James delivered the judgment in the case of Natalie Murray, a public officer who sought constitutional relief following disciplinary action after she spoke on a Barbados Labour Party platform during the 2022 general election. Justice James said in his ruling the action brought against Murray was invalid and said that any disciplinary proceedings brought against her be permanently stayed. And finally, power has been restored in Argentina after more than half of the country was left without electricity for several hours yesterday. Authorities say more than 20 million people were affected. The blackout is believed to have been caused by a large fire in open fields west of the capital, Buenos Aires. Reports say the blaze brought down crucial power lines and forced a nuclear power station to be taken offline. The blackout comes in the middle of a heat wave and drought with temperatures consistently above 95 degrees Fahrenheit in some parts of the country. And back here at home, as a small island nation, much of our country is covered by water. The ocean is not only an important part of our ecosystem, but it's also a source of food and recreation. Well, today, world leaders gathered in Panama for the 8th annual conference on oceans to set a clear plan to protect and preserve this precious resource. Here's tonight's Sustainability First report with Christina Dragovich.
Bahamas first, putting sustainability first for our people and our environment. What's first for you and the planet comes first for us.
What is happening underwater and beyond our shores is now more important than ever. The world's oceans are feeling the heat from the climate crisis in more ways than one. Director of Geodiversity for the School of Biocultural Leadership, Juan Monterrey, says the time for action is now.
We must eliminate fossil fuel subsidies. If we don't get the climate crisis under control, we might have to wish our oceans goodbye, and we will not allow it.
Effective response to global action was the focus of the opening panel at the World Oceans Conference. United States Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry, put it into perspective.
We face a crisis of the choices that we make. Not all of us individually, but yes, in many ways still individually, by what we buy, how we live, the choices we make on a daily basis. And the crisis that we face today on the global biome is a crisis that comes from unabated emissions.
This week's meetings will examine how the carbon value of blue ecosystems can be enhanced, how to increase resilience of fishing and coastal communities to protect them from the adverse impacts of climate change. Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was March 2nd and the 1976 death of Enoch Pendrell Roberts. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, identifying the main source of the crisis in Haiti. The National Security Minister reveals new details about the CARICOM mission to Haiti. That's coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. For the third consecutive year, Alive received Ookla Speed Test Awards for performance in 2022.
We present this special Speed Test Award to Alive from the Bahamas.
All right, now the Ookla Speed Test is recognized as the definitive way to test speed and performance of internet connection, performing more than 45 billion tests globally since its inception. Alive CEO John Gomez was on hand to receive the award in Barcelona, Spain. He says it proves Alive's mobile network can be trusted.
Once again, 3 years in a row, the mobile company Alive in the Bahamas has won the speed test for the Bahamas. Kudos to the team for doing such an amazing job and for supporting it to ensure that our customers have an amazing experience when they use our network.
It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was March 2nd, including the death of a veteran educator and nation builder. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1976, Enoch Pendrell Roberts died in Nassau. He was 81 years old. Roberts was an educator, artist, musician, craftsman, and poet. His career as an educator began when he joined the Board of Education as a teacher in training at the Boys Central School in 1917. His profession took him to different islands in the colony, teaching in schools on Andros, Bimini, Eleuthera, and New Providence. In 1970, Roberts retired from teaching after 61 years. 2 years later, he was awarded the Queen's Certificate and Badge of Honor. In 1974, he was made a member of the Order of the British Empire. The public primary school on Lincoln Boulevard in Englerston is named in his honor. Then fast forward to March 2nd, 2012, Judgment Day, for one of two policemen charged with manslaughter in the death of Desmond Key, who was severely beaten while in police custody several years prior. Constable Tavares Boleg was acquitted 3 days prior, but his supervisor, Corporal Donovan Gardner, was found guilty. In a nearly packed courtroom, Justice Vera Watkins summed up the case as a small crowd had gathered outside. Prosecutors alleged police beat Key with a baseball bat while in a cell of the Grove Police Station on June 17, 2007. In 2016, 4 constitutional amendment bills on gender equality were passed in the House of Assembly in what was described as an historic day. After the vote was taken, then Prime Minister Perry Christie stressed the importance of the act. 3 months later, on June 7th, a constitutional referendum was held on the controversial bills. All 4 proposals were rejected. And finally, on this day in 2022, millions of Christians around the world marked the start of Lent with Ash Wednesday, as local parishioners returned to churches for the first in-person services post the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, March is recognized as Police Month, and this March, the Commissioner of Police has dubbed it as Crime Prevention Month. Our Megan Shepard was there for one of their recent initiatives.
Officers visiting several businesses in the Palmdale shopping area, sharing tips with residents and the business community that is not a stranger to crime. Officer in charge of community policing, Chief Superintendent Anthony Roll, says the public must work with officers in order to make a difference.
If you know someone with a gun, call your commander. If you know there's some drug house or someone selling drugs or using drugs, call your commander. Call your commander and report these matters to your commander, and this will assist his area in bringing down crime.
Roll says there are still some missteps people make that increase their chances of becoming victims.
There are persons who may be walking away from their vehicle and leaving their laptop on their car seats, or leaving their bags under the car seat, or pulling up in parking lots and the perpetrators seeing them putting their items in the back trunk. And these are things that are an opportunity.
Residents and employees in the area say they feel safer when the officers are visible.
Actually, it's good. It's good to see the presence because, a lot of stuff been happening, especially in this plaza. Oh, yeah, a lot of robberies, especially at the bank over there. Drop-offs. They go to do the drop-off. The money never drop off. Yeah. Even in the cars, people going in their cars to get robbed.
I've noticed recently, during this week, I saw more police presence on the street, especially on the Marathon Road.
And this is a good sign, and this is what policing is all about. Making their presence felt.
Chief Superintendent Roll is also encouraging the public to take the time to learn where the nearest police station is located, as well as the name of their community police commander. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
All right, thanks for that, Megan. And you can watch that story and find all of today's top stories right at ournews.bs. It's going to do it for us at News at 7. Joining us now is Atalia Hall with the latest headlines. Atalia, the police, they are really in the news for such great efforts. Right. We saw them yesterday.
And then today in Grand Bahama,
yeah.
They started from the western end and went all the way to the eastern end just to make sure that the public sees that they're visible and they're there to help protect residents against crime.
Yeah, and I think that GV walkabout is coming up at 7:30, right? Yeah.
Stay tuned.
All right.
All right, thanks, Ken. Well, the war of words between prime ministers continues, and why the former leader is taking on the issue of freedom of speech. Plus, we've got the latest on the insecurity in Haiti.
New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30, the Prime Minister issues a challenge to the former Prime Minister while lashing out at the current leader of the opposition. The war of words is coming up. Plus, why one MP says protesters shouldn't have been stifled during CARICOM meetings on New Providence last month. And later, the National Security Minister gives his assessment of the crisis in Haiti following a mission trip earlier this week. But first, a fire destroys a home in Eastwood Estates. Now the investigation begins to determine what caused everything to go up in smoke. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. The back and forth between political leaders continues. Prime Minister Philip Davis this morning responding to comments made by both the sitting and former leader of the Free National Movement, Megan Shepherd, reports.
Prime Minister Philip Davis not backing down from comments made by former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Minnis saying yesterday that if the Prime Minister thinks he is the man that he is, then he can run against him in Killarney. Davis responded this way.
Well, if he's man enough, he can run against me in Cat Island and Rumpkins in Salvador. It is what it is, all right? I don't have to run against him. I have someone who's going to run against him and beat him.
As it relates to Dr. Minnis saying that he would retire the sitting Prime Minister.
Well, he's on his route to retirement now, isn't he? He's on his route to retirement, right? He's on his route to retirement. And I don't put stock in what he has to say. Because I'm not supposed to be in the seat either. If you listen to him, I'm not supposed to be where I am now. You're going to believe him now that he can retire me?
Prime Minister Davis also describing the FNM leader Michael Pintard as a wonderful actor that brings with him lots of drama. Pintard accused the PLP of hating and despising creative Bahamians. When asked to respond to accusations that he does not respect the FNM leader because he is a part of that orange economy.
It wouldn't be because he's from the orange economy. It might be for maybe other reasons, not because he's from the orange economy. I respect those who are engaged in the economy. That's why I am promoting the orange economy as part of my plank in moving this country to where we think it should be.
And as to what those other reasons may be.
I say maybe. It's not the orange economy. But that is his opinion, isn't it? That's the way he thinks, and I can't call a person's opinion. His opinion is that I don't respect him. What I say to you all, it's nothing to do with the orange economy.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepherd.
Thanks, Megan. Well, the former Prime Minister coming to the defense of the group of protesters who sought to make their voices heard during the recent CARICOM meetings but ended up in handcuffs. The former Prime Minister accusing the Davis administration of silencing the voices of Bahamians. Bertha McDermott reports.
No one should stifle the rights of others to speak. This is why the Deputy
Former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis taking time out of his contribution to the mid-year budget debate to blast the Davis administration after protesters were arrested following an attempt to speak out at CARICOM last month. Coalition of Independence leader Lincoln Bain and 17 of his members were arraigned for a number of offenses. The former Prime Minister says Bahamians were upset when their efforts were blocked.
Government must respect the right of citizens to peacefully assemble and to protest. Bahamians were deeply concerned at how protesters were treated at the recent CARICOM conference.
But the former Prime Minister contends the New Day government didn't want to hear the protesters. Minnis' comments riled up government MPs who pointed out the state of emergency imposed by the Minnis-led government in response to the pandemic. It's a point Dr. Michael Darville pointed out.
The member for Killarney is not the moral authority to speak about democracy. Your entire term in office, you operated as the competent authority and stripped the Bahamian people of their democratic rights.
Social Services Minister Obi Wilchcombe also coming to the defense of the Davis administration.
I know that he was mischievously using the word administration
when he is aware of the fact that we have and do not provide the licenses, and that is done by the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And permission is granted by the police force and management of the same by the Royal Bahamas Police Force.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Well, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis believes his constituency is being ignored by government. Dr. Minnis says there are several outstanding issues that are not being addressed.
Kalani is being ignored, and I say my people are asking me to express their concerns when I come to Parliament. Repair our potholes, clean our bridges, fix our parks, fix Bay Street. It's being eroded by the sea. In front of Suffern, it's Suffern Hill. It's only a matter of time before the sea comes across. By Nesbitt, it's only a matter of time before some heavy surge causes collapse of the Nesbitt area.
But Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Utilities, Bacchus Roll, quickly rejected the former PM's assessment.
That Kalani is not being neglected.
Never.
The Ministry of Work have any number of contractors involved with pothole patching. And in fact, one second, sir. In fact, we are doing a tremendous job, in my opinion, and I think New Providence and the residents thereof know. They've seen the various paving that is happening throughout New Providence, and in Kalani, we will take care of that pothole you say you could sit in. Seaview.
Tell them go there and send the pit.
We will definitely take care of that immediately. Thank you.
A two-story home in the Eastwood community was gutted by a fire today. Video of the fire went viral on social media, showing firefighters battling the blaze. They say they were alerted to the blaze just after 12 p.m., and when they responded, they found the building on Pepper Road fully engulfed in flames. When our news arrived on the scene, the fire was simmering. Everything inside the home was reduced to ashes. Firefighters say it's too early to say what caused the fire. While police are searching for a gunman who held up a customer at a restaurant off Soldier Road, the armed robbery occurring shortly after 10 o'clock last night. Police say the male customer was patronizing a food vendor in the Windsor Place community when the masked suspect approached and robbed him of an undisclosed amount of cash and his white Mitsubishi Colt vehicle. Now, police are asking anyone with information to contact 911 or the Criminal Investigations Department at telephone number 502-9991. Officers attached to Operation Just Road have arrested a 50-year-old Talbot Street resident after finding 2 kilos of cocaine worth an estimated $40,000. The man was reportedly taken into police custody shortly after 10 p.m. after officers executed a search warrant on his residence. A firearm was also discovered at the home. While temperatures cooling off in the capital this evening, meteorologist Greg Thompson joins us now from the Weather Center with a closer look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody for a quick check on conditions outside our studios right now. We have mostly clear skies, temperatures in the mid-70s, 76 degrees with a southeasterly wind flow at 10 miles per hour. That's bringing in that warmer air mass. Feels like temperature is at 75. Satellite view, patchy clouds moving in off of the Atlantic across the area, not producing any rainfall, but are filtering some sunshine early today. Most of those clouds have dissipated. High pressure remains in charge and will continue to stay with us through tomorrow. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the National Security Minister reveals new details about the recent fact-finding mission to Haiti. Plus, why domestic violence and sexual offenses legislation is a priority. And later, a businessman, Sebastian Bastian, reopens and renames a building in Oaksfield. He shares the story of why the moment was a special one for his family. That's all coming up when our news returns.
Following a one-day mission to Haiti in search of ways to address the ongoing challenges in that country, the National Security Minister is sharing some of those findings. Jamila Mizik reports.
National Security Minister Wayne Munroe, who was a part of that delegation to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, says during the fact-finding mission, they met with over 70 people, including the religious community, the business community, political parties, and civil society. He says the one thing they could all agree on was the country's main issue is insecurity.
They're asking for support of the Haitian National Police at this moment. They're asking for advisors. They're asking for equipment, and they're asking for intelligence sharing. So we have to build the institution that will keep peace and security in Haiti.
And just what does that assistance for the Haitian police force look like?
They indicated that they had limitations on the ability to engage with the gangs in the areas that the gangs control. They needed assistance with training. They needed assistance with structural advice as to how to structure the Haitian National Police.
Now, since that trip, Prime Minister Davis says he has gotten a full briefing. Davis, who serves as chair of CARICOM, says they will now determine if another meeting will be required to continue charting the way forward for Haiti.
Between now and Saturday, we're going to think about whether I reconvene another meeting of all heads to enable us to take the next steps forward towards what we need to be done in Haiti.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernandez outlining his policing plan for 2023. And while murder is topping the list of priorities, National Security Minister Wayne Munroe says high on the agenda is tackling domestic violence and sexual offenses. He says they're also focusing on the proper handling of victims who report these incidents.
Very shortly, you will have opened a consolidated sexual offenses domestic violence unit that will not only house the members of the Central Detective Unit, CID, but will also have offices for NGOs to take care of the needs of victims of sexual offenses and domestic abuse.
And as for a timeline for when the unit will be launched, he says in a matter of weeks.
They have identified a building. I think at this point, my last briefing was that they were doing the outfitting of it, because little things like the color of walls that greet someone could affect your psyche, so they're doing it properly, and they're outfitting it now. I would anticipate a formal opening hopefully within the outside period, a month or so, given the briefings that I would have had.
Police in Grand Bahama taking part in an island-wide walkabout today. Heads of various divisions within the police force shared their goals for 2023 as well as some of their concerns. They are calling on the community to partner with the police in the fight against crime.
How are you, ma'am? All is well? You all right? Thank you. Okay, you have a good day. Bye, safe.
That was the scene as officers from the Northern Bahamas conducted a walkabout on Thursday in Grand Bahama. The walkabout began in West Grand Bahama and ended with the Criminal Investigation Department in Freeport. Officers were out and about conducting road checks and provided motorists with safety tips. The effort is all a part of the Commissioner of Police policing plan for 2023. Officer in charge of the West End Division, Superintendent William Raming, explaining what contributed to their success in reducing crime last year in the Western District.
We touch every house in West End Division. We realized that in partnership with the community, we're able to solve most of our matters.
Officer in charge of the 8 Mile Rock Division, Chief Superintendent Jeremy Henfield, admitting that in that area there are some hot spots and firearms are a concern. He also had this message for the criminal element.
Turn those weapons in, because we, the police, would be relentless in trying to do all that we can to ensure that we take those weapons off the street.
The team then moved to the city of Freeport. Officer in charge of the Northeastern Division, Chief Superintendent Walter Henderson, says visibility is key.
And we are moving our road checks to areas that we haven't been in before. And so persons are being surprised by our presence.
And as for the Southwestern Division in Grand Bahama,
a vexing problem that we have been faced with lately in the division is ferocious dog attack. In this state, we have partnered with our local animal control section.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute Brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, a sentimental moment as a businessman names a building after his late father.
Plus, coming up in sports for you tonight, BISS Track and Field Championships, they're rolling right along. We'll tell you how those are going. And DeAndre Ayton takes the floor again as he and the Suns now have Kevin Durant in the fold. Details on that and our Davis Cup team coming up in sports.
Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended forecast. Stay with us. This is our news. Welcome back. St. Augustine's College leading after day one of track and field action in the championships. Meanwhile, our Junior Davis Cup team advances to the semifinals. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The BISS Track and Field Championships moving into day two today over at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. St. Augustine's College looking to go ahead and repeat as champions, but there's some teams standing in their way. Let's take a quick look at the full day of highlights and see how things are shaping up as the competition continues. BISS Track and Field Championships getting started yesterday over at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. All the top private schools looking to vie for the championship over the course of the next few days. Taking a quick look after day one, however, St. Augustine's College back in their usual position in first place. They had 406.5 points at the end of competition yesterday, just ahead of Queens College, who had 344. St. John's, a distant third, had 147, with Temple Christian in that fourth spot, 129 points, and St. Anne's with 83. Again, this was after day one. Day two should be wrapping up right about now. We'll give you details as these championships get ready to close down at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. SAC once again looking to repeat as your champion. Quick rundown now as our Davis Cup team has been doing extremely good stuff in Davis Cup competition. Our Junior Davis Cup team, they beat Nicaragua 3-0. Doubles team of William McCartney and Jackson McTaggart won 3-6, 6-4, and 10-8. Team advances to the main draw. They'll play Dominican Republic for a spot in the semifinals. That actually happens today. We'll keep you updated on that action as it goes down. And of course, volleyball, the championships are still going on. New Province Volleyball Association Championships rolling along. Panthers beat the Johnson Spikers 3-1. And to the men's side of things, it was the Defenders going up here against the Warhawks. Defenders getting the win here 25-16, 20-25, 25-20, and 25-22. And finally, quick look at what happened in the NBA as the Phoenix Suns and Charlotte Hornets going at it. Phoenix gets the win 105-91. Good outing for DeAndre Ayton, as we mentioned. They do get the win. And there it is, your check on sports here on this Thursday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, the former Citibank building gets new life and a new name as a businessman renames the facility after his late father. Plus, how high will temperatures get over the next few days? Greg has the answer on the other side of this break.
When we run because we can. We leap because we're free. And we push because it's what we do best. Our TV, home of the 50th Carifta Games.
Welcome back to our news. Temperatures slowly creeping up. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast. Greg?
Yeah, thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final check of weather. Ridge of high pressure continues to dominate our weather. That's continuing to provide us with lots of sunshine, warmer temperatures, but the pressure gradient is expected to tighten through tomorrow. That's going to allow us to see some breezy conditions over the island chain. Maybe a spotty shower moving in off the Atlantic along with those stiff southeasterly breezes. But that high will continue to keep all the weather systems to the north of us, and we do expect a frontal boundary to get near sometime by Sunday time frame, maybe isolated showers. Slight downtick in our temperatures expected for early next week. Forecast map showing nothing much happening across the area over the next couple of days. Some spotty showers across the northwest Bahamas, but that frontal boundary, very weak one, as I mentioned, getting in here sometime by that Sunday time frame. Boating forecast for all areas tonight to tomorrow. Breezy conditions. Your winds will be out of the southeast to south at 15 to 20 knots, prompting a small craft caution in effect. Seas will be running a choppy 4 to 7 feet over the ocean. Your low tide will be at 10:37 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, beautiful conditions expected through into Saturday, the early part of the weekend. Frontal boundary gets in here sometime by Sunday, and we could see a couple isolated showers. That frontal boundary will fall apart by Monday, but conditions will be improving for the beginning of next week. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
All right, thanks, Greg. Well, the building that once housed Citibank on University Drive was officially renamed today in honor of a well-known and well-respected entrepreneur and restaurateur, Edwin Smiley Bastian. Prime Minister Philip Davis was on hand for the ceremony.
Family members fondly remember Smiley as a very engaging people's person. I do too. Who understood the value of making everyone feel special. This quality embellished and strengthened his entrepreneurial spirit at a very early age. From shining shoes on the weekends and working as a bar boy at the British Colonial Hotel after school, to owning and operating the well-known steak and bar at the Four-Way Inn in Engliston, a beloved watering hole and popular grill spot, Smiley was an entrepreneur at heart.
Businessman Sebastian Bastian recalling that his mother brought him to the then Citibank to open his first bank account. Today, Bastian beaming with pride as he now renames that building in honor of his late father.
Never in my wildest imagination, at 7 years old, that I thought that I would own such a building and have the honor and the privilege to name it after one of my greatest heroes, my father. Today, as we officially gather here to cement the legacy of Edwin Smiley Bastian, I would like to thank all of the amazing fathers out there who are doing a good job, because now more than ever, we need to leave more than just assets behind for our children. We need to lead an example.
All right, and to learn more about that story, you can visit ournews.bs, where you can find that and all of today's top stories. And remember, you can share your favorites right from the Our News Bahamas Facebook page. And with that, we thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.